Thank you for browsing page 121. Today we're going to dive into the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's the cover right there. And we're going to go to Mirror of Opposition. It's only one little paragraph. How good a magic item can this be? Well, it's actually not a good magic item. That's kind of the point. Mirror of Opposition. There we are. I'll zoom in a little tighter. This mirror exactly resembles a normal mirror. Any creature reflected in its surface will cause an exact duplicate to come into being, and this opposite will immediately attack. Note that the duplicate will have all the items and powers of the original, including magic, but upon the defeat or destruction of either, the duplicate and his or her items disappear completely. So, not much there, right? Oh, it just pops up and you fight yourself. Wait a minute. It pops up and you fight yourself. Think about that for a minute. This thing is your exact opposite. And there are a couple of different ways that you as the DM can go ahead and mess with this a little bit. First off, you can just have it appear and your player character is fighting a direct mirror image, an opposite of themselves. I don't make it a mirror image, by the way. If it's right-handed if the person's right-handed, I let the image be right-handed. And I do allow others to jump in and help, but if they get in front of the mirror and happen to see themselves, they have a duplicate pop up too. You've got to be kind of careful how you adjudicate this because players get very savvy about mirrors. So what I will do, I have a very veteran group that I'm DMing these days. I will go ahead and if I'm going to put one of these into the dungeon, I will put it behind a tapestry or some kind of wall cover or even a secret door. And then when they open it and the light from their continual light or whatever, their lantern falls on it, they'll see themselves in the mirror itself. And it says any creature reflected in the surface will immediately cause an exact duplicate. Doesn't mean you have to see it. Just means you have to be reflected in the surface. I've used this a couple of different ways. I had one dungeon that had a bunch of mirrors set at 45-degree angles in the corners. So every corner the mirror looked around and looked around. And I had a setup where it looked around for quite some distance. And at the end of that long reflected look was a mirror of opposition. So the image was there, but the players were a good 200 feet from where it popped up because of all the reflected mirrors. I ruled that that was just funny and I allowed it to go. The other thing you can do, of course, mirror of opposition, they just pop out and the two fight. Now the question becomes, if my player character is injured, maybe he took some magic missiles, and he is injured from the magic missiles, and he's down 15 points. Is the opposite, or is he at full points? Now because it says it's an exact duplicate, I allow it to come out with the hit points that the creature has while they're standing in front of the mirror. So if they are wounded, I let the creature come out wounded. But there's certainly an argument to be made for it to come out completely fresh and ready to go. And that's only if you want to actually, kill the player character. And it's interesting that if the duplicate has all the magic items and powers of the original, including magic, but upon the defeat or destruction of either the original or the duplicate and all his or her items disappear immediately. Back in the old days of D&D, boy, we grubbed for any kind of magic item we could get. If it was off a fallen comrade, great. But if it was off a mirror of opposition and the DM screwed up and left the mirror image there, believe me, we looted that body too. So it's good that it's in there, and because of that, it really didn't happen. But in the old days, we really grubbed for any kind of treasure. We still do, but not as horrifically as we did then. And then the other way I've used this mirror, just for fun, is it says it creates, surface will cause an exact duplicate to come into being. But it doesn't say when. And it says immediately attack. Well, that doesn't mean it immediately comes into being. It just means that when it comes into being, it immediately attacks. So I interpreted this differently in one of my games, and this was just a special mirror of opposition I did at my table. And I had the mirror act like an ordinary mirror, but anybody reflected in it one turn later had a duplicate pop up. Before you knew it, I had the entire party duplicated, and their opposites trying to close the distance between them and attack them. That was a lot of fun. That caused some serious problems for the party. I had, I think, 5 players in the party at the time, and I had 5 duplicates come running in and attacking them while they were engaged with another creature. I think it was a Minotaur. They were about 5th level. So that was a heck of a battle. And what the players realized is that they could just change opponents in that case. So the fighter took the thief, or the thief backstabbed the magic user, and they kind of round robined the opposition, and that way they were able to get through it a little bit easier. Then once it was down, the strongest fighter, Image, got gang tackled by the rest of the party, and the rest, of course, was history. But it was a fun encounter, and it was another good way to use the Mirror of Opposition without giving it away. Players will often see a mirror and break it. But if they're reflected in the mirror, then they cause the duplicate. Now this begs the question, what if only their arm or their leg is reflected? No. It's got to be the bulk of the body. It doesn't have to be 100%, but to my mind, it's got to be about 70% or so. It's just how I've always played it. That way the players also will think that it's not a mirror of opposition, because they'll stick their hand out there and their hand will be reflected, but nothing will happen. So then they'll get bold about it and they'll step in. But having this actually hidden behind a tapestry is a really great way to go. Another way to do it is just have them come into a room with a lot of trappings and have a cover over what appears to be an armoire or a mirror. They'll pull the cover down. Guarantee you they will. And then you're going to get the necklace or the metal mirror of opposition into play right there. So just a couple of different ways to use the mirror of opposition. One warning, especially for a high level group, this can actually be a campaign changer. You can end up with an evil duplicate coming in and attacking and doing some serious damage to the party, or killing a key player or two. And now you've got to kind of patch things up and figure out how you're going to do it. I actually played in one game where the duplicate killed the player character, and the DM said, okay, Mr. Player Character, you're now playing the mirror image, but I want you to do things a little differently. He did not allow it to have a different alignment, an opposite alignment, because he felt that that would have disrupted his campaign, but he gave him essentially the same character, but he wanted a new personality attached to it. I thought that was pretty innovative. That wasn't my character, I didn't roleplay it, but the player who did roleplayed it very well. This is also a great item if you just want to flat make a party regret being impetuous. If they're just bursting through doors and being incautious, go ahead and throw a mirror of opposition in their way, and they're going to go ahead and learn some caution. And this is a great item at first level all the way up to whatever level the highest is that you play. The mirror of opposition, because it's always going to be the opposite, the exact character duplicated, can be quite powerful. I had a paladin who looked in one, and his exact duplicate paladin came out and immediately attacked him. That was a heck of a fight. The paladin won, but not by much. So then it really just comes down to dice rolls, which is kind of cool too. But there you have it. That's a quick look at the mirror of opposition. Let me know how you've used it in your game, if you've used it. It is a cursed magic item, so there's no gold or no experience attached if you do, for some reason, take this with you. And as the note says under the mirror of mental prowess, typical mirror size is 5 feet high by 2 feet wide. And I do allow them to be that. And they are just mirrors. I do allow them to be breakable. They're a little more durable than a regular one. But if a player really wants to throw a sword into one and shatter it, I do allow that to happen. So it's really how you want to do it. I've also played in games where the DM, for whatever reason, said the mirror was indestructible. The players then wanted it just because it was indestructible. They wanted to hold it up, put it on their castle wall, and then when somebody attacked to try to climb up the wall, lean the mirror over and have them see their duplicate, and they'd be on the rope or the ladder climbing up the wall, and all of a sudden the duplicate would appear there. If it was me, I would have ruled the duplicate wasn't holding the rope, and he'd fall. But this DM gave the players some points for their creativity, and in one little scenario we did, we were able to use the mirror, and the player who took the mirror was able to use it to good effect. It's also worth only 2,000 gold pieces if you try to sell it, which seems low to me, because anybody that's going to want to buy a mirror of opposition must have a plan for it. But that's all I've got today on page 121. Just a quick look at a one-paragraph cursed magic item that can really alter your campaign. Let me know how you've used it. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and saw. If you did, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Let's keep the channel growing. Also take a look at the Patreon, see if there's anything you can do to help me out there. That's it for today on page 121. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.